Hey, you blink, I'll cut your eyelids off. Don't you blink.
I got you.
Let's go.
As Drew Pearson would say a week ago at Canton Hall of Fame of the Dallas Cowboys, as we are back here on the Metal Steel podcast right now. 2 weeks of preseason games played for the Pittsburgh Steelers officially across the NFL. It has been week 1 for NFL teams kicking off right now. And outside of that, too, you got HBO's Hard Knocks right now featuring the Dallas Cowboys this year. I actually saw the first episode a couple days ago. Found pretty impressive right now. Watched some of the things, but that's not what we're here to talk about. But we are here to talk Pittsburgh Steelers. First 2 preseason games right now. The second week being wrapped up. 2-0 in the exhibition. And, of course, $1 million question right now. I mean, outside T.J. Watt's contract. The quarterback battle right now. Is Dwayne Haskins doing enough to keep the pressure on Mason Rudolph and supplant him as the legit number 2 backup to Ben Roethlisberger this year? I think it could be a little interesting as it gets a little closer. There's some around to the scope outside of Andrew Filipponi of 93.7 The Fan who actually seem to think that Mason Rudolph may be able to hang on to the starting job. But I got to tell you right now, from watching so far, I feel like maybe he would get the edge. Only reason for this is because he does have the 1-year contract extension with the team. And I just don't see right now how much that legitimately holds water for a guy like Rudolph. Because I think Rudolph right now, at the end of the day, listen, I mean, he is getting another chance to stick around, try and prove his worth. I mean, I would anticipate, Mason Rudolph holding on to that if I were to say right now. But I got to tell you right now, Dwayne Haskins is definitely making it pretty darn interesting for the time being. And the thing is, too, you got to look at it right now. I mean, I know Mason Rudolph had a little bit of a falling off a couple of years ago in 2019. I mean, it doesn't help matters, too, when you have to go Devlin Hodges, especially when he was struggling in a few games. I mean, in that year, I think Rudolph had a solid showing. But let's be honest, too. I think Devlin Hodges right there, too, who was able to fill in shortly after that Browns game and the Bengals game at halftime in Cincinnati of 2019. We saw how they got rolling just for a little bit. It was only for 3 games at that point, but he also had a good game against the Chargers, too, that season on Sunday Night Football earlier in the year. And I want to say that was right there, too. That was like their 6th game of the season, I want to say. Sounds about right. Early October. And that was right before they had their bye week, where they went on to face the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football. And there you had it. I mean, I felt like Rudolph right there. I mean, he definitely was through some shakeups ever since Myles Garrett incident. But I mean, he's been still holding his feet strong and still trying to make a case why he deserves to be that guy, the backup Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, listen, Mike Tomlin is a guy right now. I mean, you look at a guy like especially in Kevin Dotson right now. I mean, who says he's got to earn the number 1 spot when it comes to this year, as far as Dotson being the left guard right now. I mean, in that position. And you look at right now, with everything that has been happening right now, I mean, for the most part, I mean, more and particularly for this time being, I really believe right now, I mean, Mike Tomlin, he's definitely sending a message to all his players like he usually does. I mean, one man's missed opportunity is another man's fortune, I guess, to grab the opportunity. But we'll see how that continues to roll for right now, but I anticipate right now, listen, I think that's the way it should be, I think, for this year. I think that's the model you have to set when you're going to be going into a year. I mean, not just AFC North division, winners once again, just being in the playoffs, but one last crack at a legitimate Super Bowl run here. And for the most part, I mean, for the first couple of games, I got to say right now, let's get into it right now. For the opening drive here, we're going to be talking about Mason Rudolph versus Dwayne Haskins and Joshua Dobbs. I mean, Mason Rudolph in this past week's game versus the Philadelphia Eagles in Lincoln Financial Field. The Steelers did win that game 44-16. You saw Mason Rudolph. He went 0 for 6 in 2 games without any scores as we take a look at it in the quarterback battle. I mean, for the totals for this right here, 0 for, in scoring drives right now. Basically, 0 for 6, for the most part, when you look at it. You got Dwayne Haskins on the other hand, too, at 11 scoring drives. He has at least 5 touchdowns, 2 field goals, 7 for 11 right now, scoring about 64% of the drives, I think, in scores. Then you also got Joshua Dobbs right now, too. He is 1 out of 5 with a touchdown pass. He didn't really get much snaps, especially playing time in this game versus the Eagles. Didn't come till around fourth quarter-ish. But still, you look at the comparisons up to this point right now and where they all stand at, where the cards fall. You got right now, at the time being, as we take a look at it, Mason Rudolph, he's still top of the pecking order with QB rating at about 104. Then you got Dwayne Haskins at 94.3. And Josh Dobbs about 81. And just give you that idea. But I think that's one interesting thing. I think Andrew Filipponi is very wise to point out right there. You're having drives that are resulting in scores for the most part. And I think if anything, if you're going to be, a guy like Rudolph, I think you have to hammer that point home a little bit. And Mike Tomlin did mention, too, that Ben Roethlisberger, he is going to be probably getting his start the following week versus the Philadelphia, not the Philadelphia Eagles, but the Detroit Lions when they host them in Heinz Field next Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. That'll be the kickoff for the Steelers. Let's double check that right now. 1 second, just to confirm that. No, it'll be at 7:30 p.m. No, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, Saturday, August 21st. They will be hosting the Lions in that game. So, again, I hope everyone's enjoying the weather right now. I took a little bit some time off right now, but just got back from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I got to tell you, that weekend was spectacular. Couldn't have been any more than I asked for as a Steeler fan, being in attendance right there. Troy Polamalu is receiving his gold jacket before the start of the 2020 class festivities. He had the mystical jacket ceremony, which was the night before, I believe it was. But then just saw the beautiful speeches right there in there. And I think for Troy Polamalu to even say what he said in his Hall of Fame, to be considered, make sure you treat the uniform with the respect and tradition that it deserves. And the ultimate respect, just maybe you can hear from a great player that, hey, you could have played with us. I thought that really stood out for me from Troy Polamalu right there, too. Of course, I think the biggest funniest story, too, was how that always goes around, including at the end of his rookie season back in 2003. He was being written about by most people in the media as a first-round bust. And as everyone is aware of that story, and Bill Cowher even tells it, too, when he interviewed him when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame the day before the Super Bowl 54 back in 2020, he says, I don't care what they're saying about you. I still think you're doing just fine. He goes what, Mr. Rooney, they're still talking about me? I just felt like that stuff really continues to stand out right there. And it was just awesome all around. I was very surprised once again, too. Bill Cowher gained the opportunity to speak last in the Hall of Fame to close out the 2020 class on Saturday night. Now, I know a lot of people were definitely cracking jokes about or taking jabs about the 8-minute speeches. Yeah, but when you got TV involved and ratings, that's the risk you're going to run to. But I will say this, and I love the night theme setting of the Hall of Fame. But if you're going to allow guys a little bit more leeway to speak longer, as you would expect, why not just start a little bit earlier? Why not move back maybe 2 hours earlier? Maybe we do at 4:30 p.m. I mean, so what? I mean, you get like 6.5 hours just to hear the emotions, the moments from these players, contributors who have been in here, coaches, and that's what it's all about. Unfortunately, I think some people kind of felt cheated. They didn't get to hear more. But I'll be honest with you. I mean, like Bill Cowher, too. I mean, just out of respect to, I mean, he didn't necessarily have to name specifically players in general. I mean, just all the people that they play for him definitely helped set the culture right there. And he was definitely very proud of that. I think my very favorite story of Bill Cowher's was how he said Dan Rooney handed him rosary beads. And that was that Monday going into Super Bowl 40, before they won the one for the fun against the Seattle Seahawks eventually. Jerome Bettis, who went out on top, of course, retired following that game. And Bill Cowher was like saying, you know, Dan, I've never been a Catholic or anything in my life. And it's like, I never did this before. And Dan really says it doesn't matter. Every little bit helps. And I think when he closed out the Hall of Fame, how he acknowledged Dan and Patricia Rooney, the matriarch of the Rooney family, I believe it was, who passed away earlier this year. And of course, I mean, man, shout out to his wife, Mari Schottenheimer, too. I mean, his former wife, Kay, how he just said, like, he still felt them in spirit at the end of the day. And I thought that was just, very sweet right there that ended out. But back to the quarterback battle right now. I mean, listen, I will say this. I think the momentum right now is in favor of Dwayne Haskins. I just feel like Dwayne Haskins right now, out of the three, I mean, let's just speak about this for a second. He's getting a little bit more of the leash versus the other two quarterbacks, simply because everyone remembers how much it was disastrous in Washington football team. I mean, how he started off there. He did not really have the rosiest of times there performing. I mean, when you look at, I mean, how he came out, I mean, a first round pick, 15th overall, selected by the Washington football team back in 2019. I mean, 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions his rookie season, and then 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions the second year. I mean, he's only had one fourth quarter and game-winning drive apiece in each of his first 2 seasons. Then, of course, I mean, when you look at last year, too, he only started 6 out of 7 games. So that goes to show you how much, I mean, patience was wearing thin right there. They had the maturity issues during the COVID year. But a lot of people are definitely looking at Washington football team, too. I mean, right there, I mean, definitely trying to restore some law and order and respect and pride and tradition as they transition a new wave of football after going through the name change. Listen, I think right now for a guy like Dwayne Haskins, I mean, either way, I mean, they have like their issues of their own. That was before all the women accusations of being abused in there, sexual harassment, or just harassment of employees who worked for that organization. And to be honest, there's been quite a few bad vibes following that area. And I think a lot of people look at it right now, listen, I mean, it's like, hey, you know what? This probably isn't doing you any favors to be surrounded by all this negativity. Why not come over to the Steel City? I mean, we still, I mean, looking at it as possible, who's to say, will he be a sole heir for a guy like Ben Roethlisberger once he decides to hang it up? I will tell you this, Joshua Dobbs, I do not see him staying on as another quarterback on this team. I mean, you look at the depth chart right now, I mean, for the Steelers right now, behind Roethlisberger, Rudolph, Haskins, Dobbs, no question in my mind, he's going to be the odd man out at the quarterback. Now, will they keep him around for a special type of player? I think use this guy for wildcat plays. Why not use him as a returner? I just do not see quarterback material in this guy going forward. I do not think it's a good fit. Josh Dobbs, I mean, and also, too, when you look at the biggest teams, too, I mean, with these two quarterbacks, I mean, in these last couple of games right now, especially this past Thursday, Dwayne Haskins, out of the 3 quarterbacks, he was the only guy that was able to score in the end zone. 2 out of 3 for the night. As a team for the Steelers, they went 2 for 4 in the red zone, first to Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, Dwayne Haskins accounting for 67% of those scores in the red zone. I mean, that is impressive so far right now. And then he was also, Dwayne Haskins in this game. Listen, he did what he had to do 161 yards passing, and then also 108.3 QB rating in that game. So, once again, who do you guys got going as official backup to Ben Roethlisberger? I'm going to say for right now, until Dwayne Haskins does it at least 2 more times, give me Mason Rudolph. I think Dwayne Haskins, he has to have at least 2 more performances like this, maybe 1 more convincing one. Because when we look at the Steelers' remaining games going into this right now, following the Detroit Lions, they will wrap up their preseason game like they usually do in Carolina versus the Panthers. They'll be on a Friday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So once again, who is the backup quarterback in your mind to Ben Roethlisberger? You guys are going to securely give it to Mason Rudolph, give him the edge? Do we got a new king of the throne to take that spot from Rudolph, to be holding the clipboard beyond Ben Roethlisberger and Dwayne Haskins? Or maybe Josh Dobbs. I don't think it's going to be Dobbs, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. You guys, once again, you guys can follow me on social media, on Twitter, @MansSteelCGR, and on Instagram, @MansSteelNation.